Now, to steal a sheep or an ox, that wasn't an accident. You just, oops, I stole the sheep, my bad. You actually chose to do that. Sin is a choice, okay? And you will pay recompense for the sin that you have committed upon yourself or brought upon yourself. And so this is basically what we're learning about is God expects you to understand that if you make a bad decision, you have to make up for that bad decision. And you're taking onus upon yourself. You're taking responsibility for the actions that you chose to do. We're going to be looking at Exodus 22 this morning. And we'll be blessed for being able to look at it because it helps us with a lot of different principles in life. And as mentioned last time, it helps us know that we need to take responsibility. We need to learn to take onus upon ourselves instead of giving others the responsibility. Well, like he had it, it's his responsibility. No. You see in the Bible that if you have borrowed something or if you owe money or if you are in a certain situation where something breaks or is stolen, well, you can be responsible depending. And it really helps with just, daily life in being able to interact with others and realizing that, God will provide. If something gets broken when you've lent it out to somebody, then God will take care of you. I mean, he's got the laws written right here. So we're going to look at it and try to understand a little bit more of what God is saying in Exodus chapter 22. So I'm sharing my screen here, and it says, if a man shall steal, okay, so this man is breaking the commandments. If a man shall steal an ox, so an ox, that's one, not oxen, which is two. If he steals an ox or a sheep and he kills it or sells it, well, he's going to restore 5 oxen for that one ox. Okay, so you stole something, but you just brought yourself into major debt. Okay, you stole an ox because it's worth something. Now you have just put yourself into debt 5 times more that, initial, what you thought was going to be a benefit. Or if you steal a sheep, it's 4 sheep for that one sheep. Now, okay, this is interesting because an oxen is worth more than a sheep if you were to go and buy one at the market, right? And so the more you steal, the more you're in debt. You see how that works? So the sheep is 4, the oxen is 5 for stealing 1. And I think that makes a lot of sense because what's happening is God is showing you hey, you can mess up and you still have to pay, but you can really mess up and you're still really going to have to pay. It's not that you just, you steal a sheep and you get a slap in the hand. You steal an ox and you get a slap in the hand. You steal a house and you get a slap in the hand. No. The more you steal, the greater the responsibility, and you need to take responsibility for what you've done, the choices that you made. Now, to steal a sheep or an ox, that wasn't an accident. You just, oops, I stole the sheep, my bad. You actually chose to do that. Sin is a choice, okay? And you will pay recompense for the sin that you have committed upon yourself or brought upon yourself. And so this is basically what we're learning about is God expects you to understand that if you make a bad decision, you have to make up for that bad decision. And you're taking onus upon yourself. You're taking responsibility for the actions that you chose to do. You didn't mistakenly steal an ox. You chose to do so. And that's what's happening here. So then verse 2, if a thief be found breaking up. Now that word breaking up, it's interesting because we don't normally use that phrase. But if I were to triple click the word breaking up, it is to unexpected examination. You're looking at something, right? You break up or you secretly search. You're trying to strategize your burglary, okay? So if you're found breaking up and you're smitten that you die, there shall no blood be shed for that person. Okay, let me tell you a story. There have been probably close to a dozen of my friends that have died in various situations, either, suicide or drug overdose, car accidents, whatever. But one of them I'll tell you about. He was raised up as a Seventh-day Adventist, he and his brother, okay? And his this guy broke into, well, I'm sorry, no, he didn't break into, that was somebody else. He was beaten to death with a baseball bat. Okay, that was this guy. Now this guy, he went into a woman's house after being with her at a bar, and she's like, come on home, my husband's at vacation, don't worry, everything's good. So he came home and they were together in the bed upstairs, and the husband came home. Well, honey, I'm home. And so they both freak out. He jumps out the window and he's outside naked. Okay. Well, after being outside naked, he didn't know what to do. So he's running back and forth. He breaks into somebody's house and he is shot and killed. Well, that person that shot and killed this guy, a friend of mine, and not a close friend, but he was an acquaintance. I was a better friend with his brother, but an acquaintance of mine, he died. And I'm sure that person who shot that guy had no harm or no guilt at his hand legally. And the reason why is because it's still that way. If somebody breaks into your house, man, they need to watch out, because that's your house, right? And so what happens here is, if a thief is found breaking up, like, sneaking around, and in most cases here in America, it's in your house, not just on your property, and he's smitten so that he dies, no blood's going to be shed for him. Like, you're not guilty. It says in verse 3, if the sun is risen upon him, in other words, if he doesn't die, but he's around until the sun rises, there shall be blood shed for him, for he shall make full restitution. And if he have nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. Okay, so he's going to be sold. Right, listen, okay, if you're stealing an ox, you've just brought yourself into debt 5 oxen. Okay, that's foolish. If you're trying to sneak around in somebody's house, you're either going to die or you're going to be sold as a slave. So, I mean, like, who's going to be stealing, right? Thou shalt not steal is not only a command, like, don't do it, it's a promise that you won't. If you have the one God at your head, then thou shalt not steal. You're really not going to. And you won't be sold as a slave. You won't be, in debt. You won't be killed at the hand of somebody who's like stronger or faster than you are when you're sneaking around somebody's house. So this just makes good sense, like good moral and intelligent human sense. You're not going to kill yourself if you do this. What a great idea. Let's not steal, okay? And then it says here in verse 4, if the theft be certainly found in his hand alive. In other words, if he's running from the house, but somebody stops him like, wait a minute, I saw where you got that. Whether it's an ox or an ass or a sheep, he shall restore double. Okay, so if he gets away with it, he's still in debt, right? So no matter what you are, if you're a thief, no matter which way you get out or you're not getting out, it's worse for you and your family. So like, okay, like you come home, hey, sweetheart, I didn't get the ox, but I got caught and now we're in debt for 5 oxen. Who's going to make mama happy saying that, right? So you just messed up everything. So being a thief is not an intelligent thing to do according to the Bible. Now, before I was a Christian, I was a thief. I would go and steal, like I stole a wallet, I stole a belt, things from my friends' houses and stuff like that. And it was foolish. When I became a Christian, to my knowledge, I was able to restore some of those things, but I can't remember all the stuff I stole. So I just said, Lord, please forgive me. And if I can recall, and if you can bring it back, and if I can be in a situation where I can make it right, then make it happen. Otherwise, I just don't do it anymore. So, people do these things. Thank the Lord I was never caught. Well, I should have been caught, actually. So I say thank the Lord out of my own ignorance. But if I was caught, I would have learned better. But God saw in his wisdom that it wasn't right for me to be caught. But anyways, I just see how foolish it is now. And I don't want to do it, because not only am I guilty before God, but if and when I get caught, because God knows all things, you will have to restore, and you're going to mess it up for yourself and your family. So just don't do it, right? Just pray that God will provide a different way, and he will. I prayed for 20 plus years, like 23 or 24 years for a truck. God, I really want a truck. You're trying to figure out what to get for the family, and yeah, a car makes better sense. A car makes better sense. A car makes better sense. Over 23 years, I bought different cars. And so finally, like a year or two ago, God finally provided for me a truck. And it's such a blessing. I love it. This has been the time where I've needed it the most. And God knew that. So He'll provide. It just sometimes takes a while. Anyways, so you're going to restore double if you're found. And if a man shall cause a field or vineyard to be eaten, either by his family or his oxen, and shall put in his beast, so the beast is the one that's eating it, and shall feed in another man's field, of the best of his own field and of the best of his own vineyard shall he make restitution. It's like, think about that. You're coming home one day from the field and you're like, Mama, it's so beautiful out there in the field. The harvest is ripe and everything's going to be ready, except I had to give the best to our neighbor. She's like, what? What's wrong with you? What happened? Well, I figured he had a good field and I put our beasts out there and I started eating some too and they caught me and now I have to give, it doesn't make right for family and friends if you're making those decisions. So not stealing is a really good idea. If fire breaks out, kind of like Samson, this is what it reminded me of when I was looking through this. Samson took firebrands, remember, and connected them to foxes and then let them out through the field. If fire break out and catch in thorns, so that the stacks of corn or the standing corn or the field be consumed therewith, he that kindled the fire, Samson, shall surely make restitution. Now, of course, he was on a different kind of war. Samson was. If you just read the Judges, you'll find that story. Now, if a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, so now this man is giving over to his neighbor something to keep, whether it be stuff or money, and it be stolen out of the man's house. Okay, so a man gives it to his neighbor, and it's stolen from out of the neighbor's house, okay? If the thief be found, let him pay double. Okay, so that's a big deal. But now, if the thief be not found, in other words, like, wait a minute, where did all my stuff go? It's like the guy that owned the house, he's like, I don't know where your stuff went. Wait a minute, the thief hasn't been found. Okay, so what do? Then the master of the house shall be brought unto the judges to see whether he has put his hand unto his neighbor's goods. Okay, so you've lent somebody a coat or a car or some money, whatever, and then they're like, yeah, I don't know where it is, man, the coat's gone, it's been stolen. And by the way, we're moving soon, I'll see you later. Like, wait a minute, where did my coat go? Oh, somebody stole it. If you don't know where the thief is, then the guy needs to be taken to the judges. Okay, the guy that is going to be moving and says, I don't know where the coat is. And he's the one that's supposed to be searched out because, like, somebody stole it. The coat didn't up and walk away by itself, right? So somebody's guilty. And I have been guilty of these kind of things before where I'm like, who took my whatever? Whether it be my phone or my jacket or my, computer, who took it? It was right there. And of course, I'm the one that put it somewhere else without realizing it. We're all guilty of that. And so the person who maybe has, misplaced it, he needs to be checked out too because, I don't know where it is. Somebody stole it. Well, maybe not. Maybe he just put it in a place where he can't recall. And that's been my bad. I've done that so many times. And I admit it, like, hey guys, sorry, my bad. And so, so that's all taken care of here in the Lord's laws or judgments. And we've also seen them referred to as ordinances, right? In the previous chapter. So verse 9 of 22. For all manner of trespass, whether it be for an ox or an ass, which is a donkey, for sheep or for raiment, or for any manner of lost thing, which another challenges to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges. And whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double unto his neighbor. So the judges are supposed to be taking all the information of, like, when was it lost? When was it brought in? Where was it put? Who took it? Who used it? How long has it been missing? What was the color of it? Who saw it? What were the witnesses? I mean, you take all that stuff together and you come to a conclusion like, you know what? The only conclusion we can find is that you did steal it. We don't know where it is, but you're the one. You got to pay. Somebody's got to take care of it because it's missing. And, most of the time they were in prayer, of course, because the priests were the judges. And in some cases, in some settings, because I know that there were judges during the time of the judges, and I don't think they were priests all the time necessarily, but at times the priests were judges, okay? And so you have this situation where they were in prayer, they were asking God for wisdom and direction, and we can only believe that God blessed them, gave, back what the people lost, and if not, then God would restore. God's not going to leave somebody, misjudged and then not take care of him or her. So the Lord is merciful, and we can see that in so many different ways. Notice verse 10. If a man deliver unto his neighbor a donkey or an ass or an ox or a sheep or any beast to keep, so the man delivers to his neighbor an animal to keep, and it dies or is hurt or driven away, no man seeing it. So nobody saw what happened. It died, it was hurt, it's lost, but nobody saw it. It says, then shall an oath of the Lord be between them both. Okay, you're now calling the Lord to judge between you both. You're not going to lie about this one. That he hath not put his hand unto his neighbor's goods. In other words, listen, he gave me to keep it, but I didn't steal it, I didn't hurt it. And the owner of it shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good. Okay, so somebody's going to have to pay for it. Or in this case, there's like, you know what, Lord, I don't know what happened. Well, then it says the owner of it shall not make good. It's just like, hey, we lost, both of us. Sorry, it's not my bad. I don't know what to do. And if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereof. Okay? So if that animal is stolen from the guy who was supposed to watch it, well then he's supposed to make restitution to the owner. It's like, it was at my house, but it was stolen. And now, it's my responsibility because I should have kept your stuff better than I did. So he makes restitution to the owner of it. And that makes sense. Like, for example, you borrow somebody's vehicle, which in this case, an ox would be kind of like a vehicle. You're like a tractor through the field. And you're borrowing somebody's car and it breaks, okay? This has happened to me. I've done that. And it's happened to my car too. You lent it out, and as soon as you lent it out, then the tire goes bad, or, the brakes are no good, or whatever happens. But what goes on is that you let out your car or you borrow somebody's vehicle, and then it goes bad when it's in your possession. Well, what is the best responsible thing to do? You restore it to the owner, okay? And some of these principles are here being dealt with in the book of Exodus chapter 22. If it be torn in pieces, then let him bring it for a witness. Like, listen, I don't know. This is, I'm sorry that this animal was torn in pieces. He shall not make good that which was torn. Like, an animal comes in and totally tears up your animal. Then it's, hey, sorry, it's not my bad. Okay, so let's say that you've lent out somebody's vehicle, and this person has that vehicle, and he parks it in the street, and then some drunk driver comes riding through and slams into it, right? And then takes off driving. He's like, I didn't see it. I don't know what happened, but the car is, it was a hit and run. It's obviously destroyed, but I don't know. Well, it says he doesn't make good for it. Like, hey, it wasn't either of our fault, really. It just kind of happened. That's what's happened. He shall not make good to that which was torn. So like, say your vehicle was in an accident or your oxen was torn. Then the person, if you didn't see it, if there's no witness, it just, here's the evidence of it, but I didn't know what happened. Then he doesn't make right for it. Now, if a man borrow aught from his neighbor, if he borrows something from his neighbor and it be hurt, die, or the owner thereof being not with it, he doesn't know, he shall surely make it good. Okay? So this is, I guess, a little bit different here. If you have borrowed somebody's ox, let's just say a vehicle, you've borrowed a vehicle, and it's hurt, destroyed, banged up, whatever, and you were not with it. So, okay, my scenario last time didn't work out, but he shall surely make it good. Okay, so in this case, the way that this is worded, if you're borrowing a vehicle and you do park it down below and you're not with it and it does get hit, then you are to take responsibility for it. And so, sounded like that. Let me read them both together again, just because I was thinking it was the other way. If it be torn in pieces, let him bring it for a witness, and he shall not make good that which was torn. Well, wait a minute. If it's stolen from him, he shall make an oath. No, we still need to go further. If he delivers to his neighbor something like a truck or a car, to keep it, and it's hurt, but no man sees it, so there's no witnesses, okay, then he shall not make good that which was beaten up or in a car accident. But if a man borrows of his neighbor and it's hurt, dies, or is in a car accident, he shall make good. I guess because he would be a witness. No, because it says, oh, the owner is not with it. Okay, it is, he's borrowed it, unto his neighbor, but he didn't see it. He didn't know what happened. The person that borrowed it is going to make good on it. So that makes better sense. So if there are no witnesses, then sorry, I don't know what happened. But if the owner is not there, but the neighbor has it in his possession, then the neighbor shall surely make good for it. That makes better sense. Okay, let's go on. Verse 15, but if the owner thereof be with it, he shall not make it good, if it be a hired thing, because it came for his hire. So, okay, so if you're paying money to rent a vehicle and the owner is with that vehicle and something goes bad with it, well, this guy's the one that paid for it. It sounds like he's not going to be making good. The owner shall not make it good if it be a hired thing, for it came for his hire. So it sounds like the one that is paying for it, is that right? If the owner thereof be with it, the owner shall not make it good, because the one who hired it, it came for his hire. So it's his responsibility now. He would have to make it right. That's what it sounds like. Verse 16, if a man entice a maid, also now we've got a new paragraph here, and this is completely different. We're not dealing with, banged up cars anymore and oxen. We're talking about now people. If a man entice a woman, so now this is a sexual enticement. If a man entice a woman that is not betrothed, not committed to somebody else in marriage, and he lies with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. So fornication. If you're going to commit fornication, according to this verse here in the Bible, then you're committing yourself to that woman. Okay? You are going to be married to her. You think it's fun for a little bit of time, but that's a life commitment. So you better think twice about doing that kind of thing, because, not every, I'm not going to go into the details, but I had a pretty dark youth before I was a Christian, and I don't think I would have wanted to be with some of those people for a whole lifetime. Anyways, that's just a reality here, that if you lie with her, you're going to endow her to be your wife. In other words, you have just committed yourself to an endowment, which is a debt. You have brought upon yourself a debt now to the woman's family. Okay, that's what the endowment is, or the dowry, rather. Verse 17, if her father utterly refused to give her unto him. So, this kid comes up and he's like, hey, lady, hang out with me for a while. But then the father's like, that kid, I'm not giving you to that kid. Then he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. In other words, he's still in debt. But he just doesn't stay with that woman for the rest of his life, because the father says, nope, he's not going to take care of her. So really the father's made a good judgment here and is trying to take care of his daughter. And the father gets some money as well, because this kid is going to pay a dowry of virgins to the father for that gal that he tried to entice. So really, it's not a good idea. Just, wait till marriage, and that's really the best plan. Thou shalt not suffer or allow a witch to live. Now, what is a witch? That's a pretty strong statement there, because a witch, there we go, a primitive root properly to whisper a spell. So somebody who is into either white or black magic, somebody who is enchanting or practicing magic, a sorcerer, a witch, or somebody involved in witchcraft. A lot of these people are alive today, and there is no, there's no theocracy today. We're not under God as a nation. You are not, and neither am I, even though I am in America. So because there is no theocracy, we can't really bring this to pass. We don't have the Urim and the Thummim that will tell us one shining bright and one being overshadowed, whether it's yes or no. We don't have prophets that give the direct word from the Lord through the ministration of his Son and the angelic ministry. And so you don't have the direction as they used to in this situation. So in all reality, we cannot say that today we can go and do the same thing. Because there are a lot of spiritualists today. There are a lot of people who believe that there are spirits without bodies that communicate with us and that live and think and breathe. They don't have, I guess they don't breathe because they don't have a body, but the whole concept of spirits without a body being intelligent and communicating is spiritualism. And so if this were a verse that would be applicable today, something that we can actually fulfill and be without guilt, sadly, there'd be a lot of people dead in this world. We would have a real trial with just trying to bury how many people would not be alive, because there's a lot of spiritualists today. Some of them ignorantly, definitely, I get that. But there are a lot of people that are involved in spiritualism. The whole New Age movement, many in the One True God movement, there's a lot of Adventists that are spiritualists without even knowing. And so we have most of the Trinitarians, they don't realize they're spiritualists. And so it's a big deal to see this verse and realize, like, wow, today if this was applicable, we'd have a real trouble with just trying to bury everybody. So then says verse 19, whosoever lieth with a beast, in other words, that's sleeping with, like actually committing some kind of sexual activity with an animal, that person will surely be put to death. I've been to TJ. I know it's a real thing. There are women that do things with donkeys. And verse 20, he that sacrifices unto any god, except unto the Lord only, he shall utterly be destroyed. Okay. Wow. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about idolatry. Somebody who is an idolater, sacrificing unto another god, that person will be destroyed, utterly destroyed. So remember we read in Exodus chapter 20, we read not 22, but chapter 20, I know that's verse 20, but we read in Exodus chapter 20 that right after God had brought the 10 commandments from the mountain through his son, he reiterated the idea that there will be no gods before me. Okay, no idolaters. Don't make anything out of silver, don't make anything out of gold. Same thing here. If you sacrifice to another god, if you're an idolater, you will be destroyed. That's a heavy statement. God is very serious here. Moses is relaying what God has revealed through his son, through the ministration of angels, to Moses to deal or speak to his people, right? Thou shalt neither vex a stranger nor oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. So, okay, vexing. What is vex? It's to be enraged against or to be violent. So basically like prejudice, to suppress, to maltreat, to destroy, or thrust out by oppression, or to vex or do violence to. So listen, treat people kindly, even strangers, those that don't have the same faith that you have. You were a stranger in a strange land as well. Remember, I took you out of Egypt. I brought you as strangers out of that place and made you my people. You shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. And he goes into a detail here because widows are supposed to be taken care of. You can find that in the New Testament as well in the book of Timothy. And fatherless child, you just read about that in James chapter 1, right? If you afflict them in any wise. So now these are the fatherless and the widows. If you afflict them in any wise, and they pray at all unto me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath shall wax hot, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. Okay, so you mistreat them, and that's what's going to happen to your family. So that's a big deal, right? So, wow, we're not supposed to be prejudiced. We're not supposed to be evil. We're not supposed to be inappropriate toward those who are of another faith or, just strangers, somebody who is not the same as we are. We're to be kind to all people. Try to win them over instead of just like setting up walls and trying to block everybody from being too close to you because you'll be, unclean. So the wrath is going to wax hot. I will kill you with the sword, and your children are going to be without fathers, and you're going to be without husbands for your wives as well, or your women. So another paragraph here, a new thought. If you lend money to any of my people that is poor by you, thou shalt not be to him as a usurer. That means you're taking interest. You are not to be like a usurer where, okay, the longer you pay me back, the more you're going to owe me. Neither shall you lay upon him usury. So if there's somebody around you that's poor and you let them borrow something, money or your vehicle or whatever it is, don't expect more back. Don't say, hey, you know what, fill up my tank when you get back because I'm letting you borrow my car. And in order to do that, you need to bring it back better than it was. No, just let him borrow your car and tell him, don't even worry about filling it up. Just bring it back and I'm glad that I can help you. So no usury, no putting a responsibility upon him. He's already poor to begin with. If thou at all take thy neighbor's raiment to pledge, in other words, okay, if you're going to take my car, I want to have your coat so that when you bring back the car, I'll be able to give you back the coat. If you take your neighbor's raiment to pledge, thou shalt deliver it unto him by that the sun goes down. Because listen, that is his covering. That's how he sleeps. It's his raiment for his skin. How's he going to sleep? Like, what kind of sleep would you like without being covered up? And it shall come to pass when he cries unto me that I will hear, because I care for people that are poor. I'm gracious, right? See how that is? God is so kind and so merciful. Thou shalt not receive the gods, nor Thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. Okay, why not? Well, I was thinking at first that's kind of like what we're doing. We're reviling the gods, the false gods of the people around us. But this is, I don't think, the same thing. You see, it's thy people. Who are thy people? Thy people are supposed to be the children of Israel. They're supposed to be worshiping the only true God. So thou shalt not revile the God. I think that word gods could very well be capital G-O-D. The reason why is it is Elohim, just like all the other times it's used. And so don't revile the God of your people, nor curse the rulers of your people. You know, I mean, just ask like what happens when they cursed Moses and Aaron. What is it? Numbers 21, for example, if you wanted to go there and read about when the serpents came, it was because they were murmuring against Moses and against those that were leading. So really, don't revile God, the God of your people. Don't revile the leaders of your people, because God is not to be reviled. And it says God's here in the lowercase g, but I don't think it means that necessarily, because we are to condemn the gods, the false gods of the people. And that's what God would raise up prophets for. And so if you're telling us not to do that, then he's going contrary to his own direction when he raises up prophets, right? Or raises up people to speak out. And so I do think that is supposed to be a capital G-O-D, so I think it's a translation mishap there. But if you disagree with me, that's fine. I don't mind. Just come up with a better explanation. But I think this one could be the real God, the true God. And don't revile him. That means to be light upon. Like, just ask Elijah, right? Or Elisha. Go up, Elisha. Go up, thou, I think it was Elisha, thou bald head. And don't make easy trifling or make, light of contempt. Don't curse, etc. Don't treat God's name as though it's unimportant, his person, who he is, his position, and the ruler of your people as well. Thou shalt not delay to offer the first fruit of thy ripe fruits. So the tithe, that's what this is called. So what God would ask of his people is 10% of whatever God provides for them. And it's to be the first of your ripe fruits, the good stuff. Don't delay to offer the first of thy ripe fruits and of thy liquors. Now, the liquors, what does that mean? So something that was like a tear or the juice. They call it liquor here. And so if your first fruits are, in the sun a few days and they're starting to tear or drip, they're starting to produce, like on the counter, for example, if you have an apple that sits out too long or an orange or something, they're going to drip some, of the juices that are in them. That's the juice here. That's the liquor. I don't think that they would make liquor necessarily to drink, but it's that which comes forth like tears from the fruit. The firstborn of thy sons shall thou give unto me. So give me the first of your fruit and the first of your children. Okay, the firstborn of your sons. Likewise, thou shalt do with thine oxen and with thy sheep. So the firstborn is mine. The first tenth of what comes to you is mine as well. 7 days it shall be with his dam or the mother, and on the 8th day thou shalt give it to me. So it is mine. And you shall be holy unto me. That's really what God is calling for. In all these activities, he wants his men and his women to be holy. Neither shall you eat any flesh that is torn of beasts in the field. You shall cast it to the dogs. So anything torn of the beasts, that's not healthy. You're just going to leave it because it's collecting maggots by the time you find it, etc. It's got diseases and whatever. You don't want that. And plus, I won't get into it, but you shall be holy unto me. That's really what God is calling for. And all these things in chapter 22 is dealing with the idea of God calling us to be a holy people. So I really like this kind of thinking, because what God is doing is showing us that we can be kind, we can be responsible, we can take action, with and for our friends and ourselves. We can be those that are, fair, and we can cast good judgment. We can lend out and not have to really worry, because God's going to take care of things. And there are, basic principles that he wants us to follow as well. But we want to be holy. That's what God is calling us to be, people that are just and, good to be around. So kind of the salt of the earth, if you will. And so to be modest around each other, that's good. Yep. And so what God is calling us to do is to be those that really do love the Lord with all our hearts, minds, and souls, and our neighbor as ourself. And that's what I think these principles are all about. So let's ask God to make us those people. I'm going to pray with you all, and then if you have any comments, I would love to hear what you have to say. So let's bow our heads together. Father, we thank you for giving us this time, and pray that you'd please continue to lead us, that we can understand a little bit more of what it is that you're calling us to do and say in our experiences here as your people on this earth. We ask that you would give us wisdom and direction. Help us to be responsible and dedicated and true. Help us to be honest and forthright in judgment, to be, fair and understanding as well, to take responsibility and to be those Christians that just really reflect your character. We thank you for calling us to this, and ask that you'd help us to ever do that which you've called us to do, being those Christians that follow the example of your Son, even here today at this time in this earth's history. Thank you for this, and we pray your blessings in Jesus' holy name. Amen.